Tuffy, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world today and how you might best cope with it. First of all, just a little bit of my background, because I know people get on social media all day long and start flapping their jaws, and they may or may not have any idea what they're talking about. I have a degree in broadcast technology, and I've worked in radio, television, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and I'm also a psychic medium, which I don't bring up a lot, but I've been bringing it up more and more lately with all that's going on in the world. I talked the other day about what highly sensitive people are about and how they're dealing with this. I had a few people email me asking me about this thing about Kitty. I've got my dog Harry, and I have a cat rescue, and I'm handling some cats. And every time I try to get on to record, that's when stuff happens. So excuse the noise or the chaos. Anyhow, I said the other day, when you want to know the truth, if someone upsets you, or you're irritated, or you have confusion, you have questions, what you need to do is put your hand on your heart, shut your eyes, and think about the frequency of love from your heart to the Creator. It's a frequency that bypasses the third dimension and goes straight up to the Creator. The reason you do that with your heart and not necessarily your brain and your mind is because the heart has been found scientifically to work exactly like the brain. It has a brain of its own, and the cells operate and think on their own just like the brain cells. The difference is the heart has no ego, so it can never ever lie to you. The brain, on the other hand, has an ego for survival reasons, and it can very much deceive you many times because it's coming from a logical point of view, not necessarily the heart. An example is sometimes if you ask someone, where they live, they'll say, oh, well, I live over on that street. Or if you say, was that yours or his or what? Oh, that's mine. They don't say, oh, I live over on that street, and that's mine till we get it back. The reason they do that, it's an automatic, natural thing, and it's a natural thing. And the reason they just automatically do that, it's so good to see you. Oh, I love you so much. And, oh, my little doggy's lost. Where did he go? That's because this is what the truth is in your heart chakra. So when you're confused about whose side you are on politically and why, who you love, who you don't love, what you need to buy at the store, or some matter that's really bothering you, you put your hand on your heart, shut your eyes, take a deep breath, concentrate on this frequency of love. It's a natural frequency. It goes straight up to the heavens, and ask, what am I going to do about this? Oh, I'm pregnant and my boyfriend's leaving me. Do I need to go to a shelter, or can I go to Aunt May's house? Put your hand on your heart, and you will get the proper answer every time. You take a few deep breaths, and it will calm you down. The difference is the heart has no ego and the brain does, and that's why we go through the heart. With all of these things about the riots and basically the black race, I've got a lot of friends that are black people, Mexican, white. I'm part Chickasaw Indian and part white, so it's all a huge mix. But people are talking a lot about the Confederate flag, and then I had a friend today who I just love him, but he irritates the crap out of me. We disagree on everything there is to disagree on politically. But what happened is Trump was ignoring the public housing issue, and he ended up raising rents for HUD, for public housing. So my friend says, who's a Republican, and he adores Trump, which I respect him for his beliefs. But he says, well, number one, what they need to do is be selective in who they're sleeping with, so that the woman won't have 3 kids and then the husband leaves and, she's left to do a minimum wage job and raising her kids, and make sure that they get their education and their schooling, and make sure they do this, that, and the other. And I was like, I said, Michael, you know what? They were not all born in the position that you're born in. I said, what you need to do is don't go to the soup kitchen and feed the homeless. Go find a black family, a single black mother whose husband is either in prison or has left. She has 3 kids and not a big enough education, although she's trying to get one, and she's working minimum wage trying to raise these 3 kids. Meanwhile, she may or may not have a family that can help her, and HUD just raised their rent. So I disagree with you, and the reason this is happening is the black race has been the vulnerable race, and the truth is, right now, we are getting ready to have a civil war, and that's leading right into a revolution. They're wanting to, basically overturn ourselves for a new system, which is another thing that's very controversial and debatable. But the reason why the black race has been paying for crap year after year, century after century, they are the vulnerable race. And when the white man, which that's what's going on, they keep suppressing that race, then you can't easily say, well, just go to school, get your education, do this, do that. You can't do that if you're already in a suppressed environment and you're already working, your ass off trying to raise 3 kids, and your man is in prison, and the reason he's in prison is because he wasn't allowed to get an education. He was too busy roaming the streets trying to sell drugs to make money for his family. And a lot of people are like that, but they are not even drug users. A lot of people deal in drugs because of the money. And now he gets caught and he's in prison, and she's left with all these kids, and she ends up maybe starting to drink or starting to smoke or whatever because she's stressed out, and everyone's life becomes chaotic. And the kids grow up in that environment and they don't know anything else but what their parents did. And the reason that's happening is because of things like President Trump not paying attention to the public housing and not giving this race a chance to get out. So I say this to my friend, and someone else says to me, who, of course loves Trump, he's like, well, Jesse Jackson and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X don't think that way. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to slap you upside the head. Those people are in a different category. Trump cares about them because they have money. They have money, okay? They're not in the ghetto. We're talking about the everyday American people that are struggling to make ends meet. And the black community is very much in this. Now, I want to explain something to you. A lot of you people have never experienced racism. A lot of white people out there, but I can tell you, okay, when I was 19 years old, I was going to a broadcast technology institution, and it was for radio and TV. So this guy comes in that's a famous DJ, and I didn't know he was black, and he walks in. I mean, this guy was so freaking good looking that it hurt. It hurt to look at him because he was so freaking good looking. His name was Chuck. Well, it ends up that he asks me out. I'm 19 years old, but I'm still living with my dad. And I'm like, sure, I'll go out with Chuck. So I go home and I'm getting all ready, and Chuck was quite famous, in the radio world. And I tell my dad that I've met a new friend, Chuck, and he's going to pick me up and we're going to go to the movies. He's like, okay. So Chuck shows up at the door, and I mean, this guy looks fantastic. He's A1, everything's great. I answered the door, and my dad about had a heart attack because he wasn't thinking that Chuck was black. So I go ahead and I go on out with him. We go to movies, I get home, and then my dad says to me, he goes, listen, he goes, Chuck seems nice and all. He goes, but you can't date him. And I said, why not? And he said, because he's black. I said, well, what does that have to do with anything? He goes, look, he goes, you can be somewhat friends with blacks and you can do business with blacks, but you can't be romantic with them. You can't date them. And I said, why? He said, because blacks stay with blacks, whites stay with whites when it comes to family, and that's the way it is. That's what my dad said. And I was walking away, and my dad is everything to me. He's my hero, and God bless him, he died several years ago, but he was everything to me. Hey, hush up. And as a matter of fact, we have a lot of business partners that were black, but they both of them do business together and be very polite, but they didn't want their kids intermingling. They just didn't believe that way. I think they were of the older generation that were afraid to cross that boundary. So then I go and tell, my parents were divorced, and I go and tell my mom about this. And my mom, when she was a little girl, she told me she remembers riding a city bus, and everyone always jumping on the bus, and she'd jump on it with her mom. And there was a black lady that always sat in the back of the bus. And this went on all the time. And my mom was like around 4 or 5 years old. She didn't know why. Harry, every video I do, Harry's probably going to be in it or around it because he's my joy and the love of my life, and that's the way it is. Harry, I'm trying to record right now. So anyhow, so one day my mom goes to the back of the bus, and she sits down by the black lady, and she asks her, she says, why do you always sit in the back of the bus? And that lady goes, well, I'm not allowed to sit in the front. And my mom said, why? And she said, Harry, hush up. I mean it. Loudmouth, get over there. And she said, well, I can't sit up front because I'm black. I'm not white like you. And mom was like maybe 5 or 6, and she didn't really understand it. So she just sit in the back with the black lady, and her mom let her, you know. Mom held the black lady's hand, and she enjoyed her, and she just didn't understand until she got older, and she thought that was the worst thing in the world. And she has always resonated with black people, maybe because she had a lot of challenges and she could resonate with some of these people. So she had that experience like at 5 years old, and she always said, you know, hey, a soul is a soul, and as the medium, that's how I see it. Souls are souls, and we're all the same. Color does not apply in any way, shape, or form. Neither does sex, men, women, whatever, it's all the same. Anyways, back to Chuck. So I told Chuck about what happened. So we were like, well, we don't want to stress anybody out. So the next time we decided to go on a date, I drove over to pick him up in my car, and he was at his mom's house. And I rang the doorbell, and she answered the door, and Chuck was in the back, I guess getting ready. And I walked in the living room, and she walked way over to the corner of the kitchen and sat in that corner and stared at me. And I had never felt so uncomfortable and awkward in my life. It was extreme prejudice. She could not stand that he was fixing to go out with a white girl. That was not in her whole makeup. We got through that period, but the bottom line is now I wish we could have forced my dad and his mom to go on a date and hang out with each other so they could understand it's all good. Anyways, these things that are going on with the black race, and they've been suppressed, and they're not getting a chance to get up and get out. And people are saying, yeah, but do this and do that. We'll give them a chance, and maybe they could do this and do that. And also, I had posted about the Confederate flag, and a lot of the black people, they feel what they feel. It's like the HUD housing. You can say, well, get out of the ghetto and get a job here and do that and get a degree and do that. You can say that and think it's all good, but you're not the one living their lives. You're not the one feeling down and suppressed like they feel, and that says a lot. That's as important as the history of why something happened. You know, people are people. This is the race of humanity right now, and we don't know what's going to happen. Well, we know what's going to happen right now is it's fixing to get worse. August, no later than September, it's going to get really bad. This world is divided and it's falling apart. Now, whether people blame Trump or Pelosi or whoever, that's beside the point, because the truth is, at the end of the day, it's going to get to where it doesn't matter what political party you belong to. We're going to be fighting a new world order, so it doesn't matter. But look, it's like this. Trump hates Pelosi. Pelosi hates Trump. Mitch McConnell hates Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer hates Mitch McConnell, and he hates Trump. The liberals hate the conservatives. The conservatives don't like the liberals. Then you've got a conservative liberal. Then you've got independents. And it's getting to where they're trying to make the blacks don't like the whites, and the whites don't like the blacks. Your mom don't like mine. Mine don't like yours. And meanwhile, Bill Gates, George Soros, and several others, big name players, are sitting in the back watching their screens, having a drink, waiting for all of this to boil up, and they can create a new world order with Trump in mind or without. They're still going to try to bring their agenda to fruition. And that's what's happening. So I would say, buckle up and try to breathe, because this is not the worst of it. And I understand that a lot of people are getting really anxietied out, and you need to do a lot of breathing and having your faith in God and praying for what's right. And you know what? If you see someone out in the street getting hurt, go help them. It doesn't matter what color they are. It's ridiculous. But people are people. The same, well, it's like that song that Ronnie Dunn sings, We All Bleed Red. That's the bottom line, we all bleed red. And people really need to wake up and grow up. And the people that are really, really rich, let me tell you what I always think. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is better than anyone. Take the poorest person on the face of the planet and the richest person, put them in a room, lock the door, strip them of their clothes, their money, and make them stand there and stare at each other and look at each other. Now ask me, who's better than who? Nobody. Nobody's better than anyone else. I cannot stand the extremely wealthy, rich people that have no heart, and they're so addicted to money. All they care about is money, money, money. I'm fortunate enough to have a former stepmother who's quite wealthy. She's like the only person that I've ever met that's not stingy, and she doesn't just give her money away, but she will put forth towards education, towards getting someone out of trouble. She was raised right with how to deal with her money, and she taught some of that to me, I grew up on both ends of the rainbow. My parents were divorced, my mom struggled. And when I was 10 years old, I decided, again, I'm getting an education. I'm not going to go through what my mom did. And then my dad was quite wealthy, and I got to go to a private school and graduate, got to go to some colleges and technical schools. Meanwhile, my mom struggled a lot. Now, life goes on and we're all grown up now and things change, but I understand both ends of the rainbow, and I've been through a lot more than the average person. Anyways, I just wanted to address that issue with the heart chakra and about some of the politics of what's happening today. And even though the black people are being used as a ploy, they're going to continue being used until we bring upon a solution, because this is going to continue to go on and on and on. And you're not the black person trying to raise your family struggling like this. And if you're not, and you've not been in those shoes and you don't know what you're talking about, then shut your mouth. I'm going to be continuously posting videos, and I don't mind a good debate here and there. I'm never going to get so heated that I'm going to insult somebody, unless you're a friend of mine. Okay, take care.